2:47 a.m. The medical alarm screams through the Kang mansion, a sound that has become routine terror. 7 nurses have already quit. 5 specialists have given up. But 5-year-old Hannah keeps stopping breathing, and no one knows why. Before going into the story, please let know in your comment section where you are watching from. Hit subscribe if you're hooked in and ready to enjoy the story, because tomorrow, I have another beautiful story to share with you, and I don't want you to miss anything. Now, let's get into the story. Kim Eun-ji, still in her cleaning uniform with yellow rubber gloves on her hands, races down the marble corridor past tattooed men with concealed weapons. She's been here only 2 weeks, hired through an agency that doesn't ask questions, but she knows that sound. She's heard it in pediatric ICU wards before her life collapsed. In a princess bedroom filled with untouched toys, Kang Min-jae stands paralyzed. This man who is killed without hesitation, who commands souls underground with absolute authority, is utterly broken by a tiny child whose lips are turning blue, whose small chest has stopped moving. "She's not breathing," he whispers, voice shattering. "Dear God, she's not breathing again." And Eun-ji doesn't hesitate. She drops to her knees, pulls off her gloves, and saves his daughter's life with the precision of someone hiding a dangerous secret. The security footage didn't lie. Min-jae watched the grainy recording for the 3rd time, his jaw tightening with each replay. There, at 2:47 a.m. last Tuesday, Eun-ji slipping into Hannah's room, her movements quick and practiced. The child's monitors had been screaming, yet she'd arrived before any nurse on duty. Her hands moved with precision, repositioning, checking airways, administering what looked like a breathing treatment she had no authorization to give. She'd saved Hannah. Again. He scrolled back further. There were 4 other incidents over the past 2 weeks. 4 times his daughter should have died, and 4 times this housekeeper had intervened in secret. Why didn't you tell anyone? Eun-ji stood before his desk, still wearing that faded uniform, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. "Because I have no right to practice medicine anymore. Tell me what happened." "The truth." She drew a shaky breath. "I was the senior pediatric ICU nurse at Seoul National University Hospital. 5 years of spotless records." Her voice cracked. "Then a 7-year-old boy came in acute respiratory distress. I followed Dr. Lee's orders exactly, but the child coded. We couldn't bring him back." Min-jae waited, his expression unreadable. "Dr. Lee falsified the medical records. Made it look like I'd administered the wrong dosage, ignored protocol. By the time I realized what he'd done, I was being investigated." She looked down. "I lost my license. Got blacklisted. No hospital would touch me. And your father? Stage 4 lung cancer. My mother died trying to pay for his first round of treatment. I inherited her debt to the loan sharks, 18 million won. They said they'd kill him if I didn't pay." Her laugh was bitter. "Turns out cleaning houses pays better than you'd think. When I'm not dodging collectors." Min-jae studied her carefully. The trembling hands, the exhaustion carved into her face, the desperate honesty in her eyes. He'd built an empire on reading people, and everything in her body language screamed truth. "Hannah has a rare autonomic disorder," he said finally. "Her respiratory system fails without warning. We've consulted 43 specialists. No one can predict the attacks or prevent them." "I know," Eun-ji whispered. "I've been reading her charts, which you have no clearance to access. I'm sorry, I just..." "Appa?" The small voice from the bed made them both turn. Hannah's eyes were open, unfocused, but searching. When they landed on Eun-ji, the child's face brightened into a sleepy smile. Her tiny hand reached out, and Eun-ji moved instinctively, taking it gently. "The nice lady," Hannah murmured, already drifting back to sleep. "She sings to me." Eun-ji's tears fell silently as the child's grip tightened, then relaxed into sleep. Min-jae made his decision. 24-hour caregiver. "You live here, you watch her constantly. I'll pay your debt and move your father to the best oncology center in Seoul." He paused. Just keep my daughter alive. Eunji looked up, disbelief and hope warring on her face. Do we have a deal? The contract was 12 pages long. Eunji's hand trembled as she signed the final page, her new reality crystallizing with each stroke of the pen. 24-hour availability. Complete confidentiality. Termination clause if Hannah's condition worsened under her care. Min-jae countersigned without emotion. Mrs. Choi will show you to your quarters. The head housekeeper appeared as if summoned, a sturdy woman of 58 with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. This way, Mississippi Park. Her tone was polite but cool. I run a tight household. You'll follow my rules. Of course. The room adjoining Hannah's was small but clean, with a connecting door left deliberately ajar. Eunji was unpacking her single suitcase when footsteps approached lighter, more graceful than Mrs. Choi's efficient stride. You must be Eunji. The woman in the doorway was stunning. Mid-30s, perfectly styled hair, designer clothes that whispered wealth. Her smile was warm, genuine. I'm Ji-won, Min-jae's wife. She crossed the room, taking Eunji's hands in hers. Thank you. Thank you for saving my baby girl. I only did what anyone would. No. Ji-won's eyes glistened. The doctors have given up. But you haven't. That means everything. She paused delicately. My son from my first marriage, he has some health challenges too. Perhaps once you're settled, you could advise me. Of course, Eunji said, caught off guard by the woman's kindness. After Ji-won left, Eunji spent the afternoon doing what she'd been desperate to do for weeks, a proper medical assessment. She reviewed every chart, every test result, every specialist report. Hannah dozed through most of it, occasionally waking to watch her with curious eyes. The data didn't add up. Genetic autonomic disorders followed patterns, progressive deterioration, or consistent triggers. Hannah's attacks were chaotic, severe, but inconsistent. The timing was wrong. The recovery too rapid. Eunji's stomach turned cold as a possibility formed. Uni? She looked up. Hannah was awake, reaching for her. Will you stay? Not just today. Always. Eunji moved to the bedside, smoothing the child's hair. I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart. Promise? Hannah's grip was surprisingly strong. I feel safe when you're here. I promise. From the doorway, Min-jae stood watching. His daughter's face was brighter than he'd seen in months, her laugh genuine as Eunji told her a silly story about a clumsy cat. Something in his chest tightened, not quite trust, but recognition. This woman belonged here in a way no specialist ever had. That night, after Hannah finally slept, Eunji sat at her desk, surrounded by medical journals and toxicology databases. The laptop's glow illuminated her face as she cross-referenced symptoms with poison profiles. Heavy metals, pharmaceutical agents, biological toxins. Her fingers stopped on a page, her breath catching. Someone in this house is trying to kill you, little one, she whispered into the darkness. And I'm going to find out who.
The digitalis was carefully measured, just enough to mimic a cardiac arrhythmia, not quite enough to kill outright. Eunji stared at the test strip in the bathroom's harsh fluorescent light, her hand steady despite the rage building in her chest. 2 weeks of secret testing, and finally proof. The vitamin supplement delivered to Hannah's room every morning wasn't supplementing anything except her suffering. She documented everything. The unmarked delivery service that came weekly. The fact that Mrs. Choi never handled these particular medications, they bypassed the normal household pharmacy system entirely. The pharmacy logs showed they were arranged by family but no specific name. Someone was poisoning this child with clinical precision. You're up late. Eunji startled, quickly pocketing the test strip. Min-jae stood in the library doorway, still dressed in his business suit though it was nearly 2 in the morning. I could say the same, she managed. He moved to the bar cart, poured 2 glasses of whiskey without asking, and handed her one. Insomnia? Something like that. They sat in opposite chairs, the silence surprisingly comfortable. The amber liquid burned pleasantly down Eunji's throat. My wife died giving birth to Hannah, Min-jae said suddenly. Hemorrhage during emergency cesarean. I was in Singapore closing a merger deal. Made it back 4 hours too late. He stared into his glass. I built this empire to give them everything. Instead, I gave them nothing when it mattered. Eunji's throat tightened. The boy who died on my watch, his name was Juno. He loved dinosaurs. His mother had sewn little dinosaurs onto his hospital gown. She blinked hard. I dream about him sometimes. Wonder if I'd rechecked the dosage one more time. We can't change the past. No. But we can protect the future. Something shifted in Min-jae's expression, understanding, maybe respect. She's lucky to have you. Before Eunji could respond, a cry pierced the quiet. Yama. Yama. They both ran. Hannah was thrashing in her bed, tangled in sheets, tears streaming down her feverish face. Yama, don't leave me. Eunji was there instantly, gathering the child into her arms. Shoo, sweetheart. I'm here. You're safe. Yama? Hannah's eyes were still closed, lost in nightmare. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. The child relaxed against her chest, breathing evening out. Within moments, she was sleeping peacefully again. Eunji looked up to find Min-jae watching them, something raw and unguarded in his expression. He turned away quickly, clearing his throat. Thank you, he said quietly, and left. Eunji held Hannah until dawn, her heart breaking and mending simultaneously. Down the hall, Ji-won stood at her office window, phone pressed to her ear. Her reflection in the glass was cold, calculating. We need to accelerate the timeline, she said softly. The maid is becoming a problem. She ended the call and deleted the encryption app, her expression smoothing into practiced serenity. In the morning, she would be the perfect stepmother again. Ji-won remembered the first time she'd held Hannah. The infant had been screaming in the hospital nursery, 6 hours old and motherless. Min-jae had been catatonic with grief, unable to even look at the child who'd cost him his wife. So Ji-won, his late wife's closest friend, the woman who'd promised to always be there, had stepped in. She'd raised that baby. Changed diapers at 3 a.m., soothed teething pain, celebrated first words. For 3 years, Hannah had been hers in every way that mattered. Then came the reading of the will. Ji-won could still hear the lawyer's clinical voice, all assets, properties, and controlling shares to be held in trust for Hannah until her 18th birthday. Should Hannah predecease without heirs, assets transfer to any future biological children of Min-jae. If none exist, the estate dissolves into charitable trust. Her son Taeyang, brilliant, gentle Taeyang, written out completely. 6 months later, the diagnosis, degenerative mitochondrial disease. Life expectancy, 5 years without treatment. With experimental gene therapy, potentially normal lifespan. Cost, 50 billion won. Exactly what Hannah would inherit. Ji-won sat in her office now, fingers steepled, watching the figures on her laptop screen. Taeyang's latest scan showed progression. They had maybe 18 months before the damage became irreversible. It's actually mercy, she whispered to the empty room. Hannah suffers every day. But Taeyang could be saved. Could live. Could thrive. The rationalization came easier each time. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Dr. Lee entered, carrying a manila envelope. The medical records you requested. He placed them on her desk. Everything documenting Park Eun-ji's negligence. Plus a few enhancements. Ji-won smiled. You've been very helpful, doctor. Your pharmaceutical consulting fees will reflect that. The woman destroyed my reputation when she reported my surgical errors to the board. His expression was bitter. I'm merely returning the favor. After he left, Ji-won descended to the playroom where Hannah was building blocks with Eun-ji. She paused in the doorway, watching. Higher, Uni. Make it tall as Appa. Eun-ji laughed, genuine, unguarded, as she balanced another block. We'll need a ladder for that. Hannah collapsed in giggles, and Eun-ji caught her, swinging her around. The child's face was radiant with joy. Something twisted in Ji-won's chest. Not quite guilt. More like envy. Ji-won. Hannah noticed her, arms outstretched. Come play. Ji-won entered with her warmest smile, settling beside them. What are we building, sweetheart? A castle. 4 princesses. Hannah climbed into her lap, and Ji-won held her close, breathing in her strawberry shampoo scent. She did love this child. That was the terrible truth of it. But she loved Taeyang more. Later, reviewing security footage in her private server, Ji-won's warmth evaporated. There, Eun-ji in the medication room at 2 a.m., testing samples. In the kitchen, examining Hannah's food. In the library, surrounded by toxicology journals. The woman knew. Or would know soon. Ji-won opened her encrypted files. Fabricated pharmacy orders in Eun-ji's name. Edited footage showing Eun-ji alone with the vitamin supplements. Dr. Lee's sworn statement about her past negligence. And the final dose, digitalis concentration increased just enough to cause a dramatic, nearly fatal attack that would look like medical incompetence. She prepared the new supplement bottle, her hands steady with practice. 1 week of building evidence. 1 dramatic attack. Eun-ji arrested for attempted murder. Hannah's condition deteriorating beyond recovery. Taeyang saved. 1 more week, Ji-won murmured, sealing the bottle. Then it's over. She deleted her browsing history and locked the evidence away. Tomorrow she would make breakfast for Hannah, help her pick out clothes, read her favorite story about the brave little rabbit. Tomorrow she would be mother again. Are you sure you'll be all right? Min-jae stood in the foyer, briefcase in hand, his departure delayed for the 3rd time. Eun-ji resisted the urge to smile at his obvious reluctance. We'll be fine. It's 3 days, not 3 months. Her oxygen levels? I'll monitor them every 2 hours. I have your number, the hospital on speed dial, and Mrs. Choi is backup. She softened. Go close your deal. Hannah will be here when you return. He nodded, then surprised her by gently squeezing her shoulder. Thank you. For everything. After his car disappeared down the drive, Eun-ji returned to find Hannah pressed against the window, eyes wide with longing. Uni, what's it like outside? Eun-ji's heart clenched. The child hadn't left the house in 4 months. Would you like to see? 20 minutes later, wrapped in blankets with a portable oxygen monitor clipped to her finger, Hannah sat in the mansion's private garden. She touched the grass like it was magic, laughing as a butterfly landed on her hand. It's so pretty, she whispered. I forgot the world had colors. Eun-ji knelt beside her, throat tight. You'll see it every day now. I promise. Hannah turned to her, suddenly serious. Uni, can you be my real Yama? The question hit like a physical blow. Eun-ji's eyes filled instantly. Sweetheart, I'm not. I'm not worthy of. Yes, you are. Hannah's small hands cupped Eun-ji's face with surprising firmness. My first Yama is in heaven. But you're here. You sing to me. You hold me when I'm scared. That makes you my Yama. The dam broke. Eunji pulled the child close, tears streaming freely. Yes, she whispered into Hannah's hair. Yes, I'm your Yama. From the terrace, Mrs. Choi watched through misty eyes, dabbing her face with her apron. That evening, while Hannah napped, Eunji made her final discovery. Buried in recycling bin receipts, deliveries from Crown Medical Supply charged to an account registered to Ji-won's maiden name. Cross-referenced with the vitamin supplement lot numbers. Proof. Her hands shook as she photographed everything. Tomorrow, when Min-jae returned, she would tell him. They would go to the police together. Hannah would finally be safe. She put Hannah to bed that night with extra tenderness, reading 3 stories instead of 1. Good night, my little one. Good night, Yama. Clear. Certain. No longer sleep-talking but claiming truth. Eunji kissed her forehead, her heart so full it ached. Her phone buzzed. Min-jae's name appeared. Hannah's asleep? Just now. Peacefully. A pause. Eunji. I need to say something. When you first came here, I thought I was hiring a caregiver. But you've given my daughter something I couldn't, hope. Joy. A mother's love. His voice roughened. I'm grateful you came into our lives. So am I, she whispered. After they hung up, Eunji settled into the chair beside Hannah's bed, intending to review her evidence one more time. But exhaustion pulled her under, the documents slipping from her fingers. She never heard the door open. Ji-won stood in the threshold, backlit by hall light, a syringe gleaming in her hand. She moved silently across the carpet, her face a mask of resignation. She looked at Hannah, sleeping peacefully, one small hand reaching toward Eunji even in dreams. Then at Eunji, head tilted back, vulnerable, unaware. I'm sorry it has to be this way, Ji-won whispered. She raised the syringe. The alarms shattered the silence at 3:17 a.m. Eunji jolted awake, disoriented for a heartbeat before training took over. Hannah was seizing, lips blue, oxygen saturation plummeting to 60%. No, Eunji's hands moved on autopilot, airway clear, oxygen mask secured, emergency epinephrine administered. Stay with me, baby. Stay with me. She hit the emergency call button, voice steady despite her terror. Ambulance to the Han residence. 6-year-old female, severe respiratory distress, possible cardiac involvement. The ambulance arrived in 8 minutes. By then, Hannah's heartbeat was erratic, her small body racked with tremors. Yama, she whispered once, barely audible. I'm here. I'm right here. The hospital was chaos. Doctors swarmed, machines beeped urgently, voices overlapped with medical jargon. Eunji stood outside the treatment room, blood roaring in her ears. Then the words that stopped her heart. Digitalis toxicity. Massive overdose, this was intentional. The lead physician turned to her. Who had access to the child? I'm her caregiver. Security, don't let her leave. Events blurred. Ji-won arrived, perfectly disheveled, mascara artfully smudged. Where's Hannah? Oh God, where's my baby? Then her gasp. Officers, I think you need to see this. The syringe was in Eunji's bathroom cabinet, partially hidden behind toiletries. The digitalis vial in her closet, tucked inside a shoe. That's not mine. I've never seen. And the security footage, Ji-won said quietly, painfully. From last night. The grainy video showed a figure in loose clothing entering Hannah's room at 2 a.m. Same height as Eunji. Same build. Face carefully angled away from the camera. I was asleep. That's not me. Ms. Park has a history. Dr. Lee appeared, expression grave. A child died under her care at Seoul National. Medical negligence. She lost her license. You framed me. Eun-ji lunged at him, held back by security. You lying. That's enough. The detective's voice was cold. Park Eun-ji, you're under arrest for attempted murder. Mrs. Choi was crying. She wouldn't do this. She loves that child. But the evidence was drowning her protests. Then Min-jae arrived. Eun-ji had never seen such rage. His face was stone, eyes black with fury as he took in the scene, his daughter on a ventilator, the evidence laid out, Eun-ji in handcuffs. I trusted you. His voice was lethal quiet. I brought you into our home. You were supposed to protect her. I would never hurt her. Eun-ji's voice broke. She's, the word caught in her throat, too precious, too painful. She's my daughter. Something flickered across his face, whether disgust or pain, she couldn't tell. You're not her mother. You never were. He stepped closer, and she could see his hands shaking with the effort not to reach for her throat. You're just a criminal I was stupid enough to pity. I love her. Please believe me. Please. Get out. The words were surgical. If I ever see you near my daughter again, I'll kill you myself. Mr. Han, please. Out. Security guards grabbed her arms. She fought, screaming Hannah's name, as they dragged her through corridors slick with her tears. The rain was torrential, turning the world to gray static. Eun-ji collapsed on the pavement outside the gates, handcuffs biting into her wrists. Through the mansion windows, she could see Hannah's room, could hear the faint wail of medical alarms. Her scream tore from somewhere primal, animal. Inside, Ji-won watched from the shadows, phone in hand. It's done, she whispered into it. The rain swallowed everything. The apartment had been destroyed. Eun-ji stood in the doorway, rain-soaked and numb, staring at the wreckage. Furniture overturned, belongings shredded, walls spray-painted with threats, pay or die. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Your father's at Gangnam Medical. Thought you'd want to know before he bleeds out. She ran. Her father looked small in the hospital bed, face swollen beyond recognition, breathing labored through broken ribs. But when he saw her, his one functioning eye brightened. Eun-ji. Don't talk. Save your strength. His battered hand found hers. Not your fault. Never was. Each word cost him. So proud of you. Always. She wept into his blankets while he stroked her hair with trembling fingers. The loan sharks found her in the waiting room. 3 days. 300 million won. The leader's smile was ugly. Or we finish what we started. 300 million. She had nothing. Was nothing. That night, Eun-ji stood on Mapo Bridge, the Han River churning black below. One step. Just one step, and the weight would finally lift. Her phone lit up with a news alert, heiress Hannah Kong remains critical, family keeps vigil. Eun-ji's finger hovered over the article. There was a photo, Hannah, intubated, so small against white sheets. She pocketed the phone and stepped back from the edge. She had to know if Hannah survived. Had to know her daughter was safe. Even if she could never see her again. She should be waking up. The neurologist's confusion was evident. Min-jae stood over his daughter's bed, watching monitors that showed healthy brain activity, stable vitals, no medical reason for unconsciousness. Then why isn't she? Sometimes patients give up. Lose the will to wake. A nurse entered to check vitals. The backup footage played frame by frame on Min-jae's office screen. 2 a.m., figure enters Hannah's room. 2:45 a.m., same figure exits. 2:50 a.m., alarms sound. Different person, Eun-ji, runs in from adjacent room. It's impossible, Mrs. Choi said quietly. The overdose was administered at 2 a.m. Eun-ji was asleep until the alarms. I checked her phone records, the emergency call logged at 2:51 a.m. Min-jae stared at the screen, his world tilting. Then who? Mrs. Choi laid out the rest. Pharmacy records in Ji-won's name. Security room access logs. Recovered files showing meetings with Dr. Lee. Bank transfers for medical consulting. Why? His voice was hollow. Her son needs experimental treatment. 50 billion won. Mrs. Choi's expression was pained. The exact amount of Hannah's inheritance. Your wife's will excluded Ji-won's child completely. The truth. Eun-ji woke to sterile white walls and the steady beep of monitors. Her body screamed protest as she tried to sit up, broken ribs, internal bruising, a dozen other injuries catalogued by doctors she couldn't remember seeing. Where's Hannah? Her voice was raw. The nurse startled. Miss Park, you need to rest. Where is my daughter? She's stable, but... Eun-ji was already moving, pulling out IVs with shaking hands, ignoring the nurse's protests. Her legs nearly buckled, but she grabbed the four-pole for support and stumbled toward the door. Min-jae appeared in the hallway, eyes red-rimmed. Eun-ji, you can't. Get out of my way. Something in her voice made him step aside. She found Hannah's room by instinct, pushed through the door, and collapsed onto the bed beside the still child. Her hand found Hannah's small fingers. Hannah, it's Iyama. Tears streamed freely. I'm here now. I'm so sorry I left. Please come back to me, sweetheart. Please. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then Hannah's eyes fluttered. Yama? Yes, baby. Yama's here. Hannah's arms flew around her neck, and they clung to each other, both sobbing. The monitors began stabilizing, alarms silencing one by one as Hannah's vitals normalized. The medical staff stood frozen in the doorway, witnessing something beyond science. That night, Min-jae entered Eun-ji's room and did something he'd never done for anyone. He knelt. There's no apology big enough for what I did to you. I failed you. I failed Hannah. His voice broke. You believed what you saw. Ji-won was family. I was a stranger. No. He looked up, eyes glistening. You were Hannah's mother. And I should have known that mothers don't hurt their children. Especially not mothers who've already lost one. Eun-ji's composure crumbled. Min-jae took her hand gently. I can't undo what I did. But I can promise, I will spend the rest of my life proving you can trust me again. Both of you. She squeezed his hand, unable to speak. The courthouse was packed for Ji-won's sentencing. 15 years for attempted murder, fraud, and conspiracy. As guards led her away, she looked back at Min-jae. My son will receive the treatment, Min-jae said quietly. He's innocent. And he deserves his mother to come back to him someday. Ji-won's mask finally shattered. She wept as they took her. Dr. Lee was stripped of his medical license, his fabricated records exposed. Eun-ji's name was cleared, her reputation restored. The loan sharks were arrested within 48 hours, Min-jae's connections ensuring swift justice. 6 months later. Hannah's 6th birthday party filled the mansion garden with laughter. She ran across the grass, lungs clear, cheeks flushed with joy, chasing butterflies with other children. No oxygen monitor. No restrictions. Just a healthy, happy child. Eunji watched from the terrace, now head pediatric nurse at Hana Children's Medical Center, a state-of-the-art facility Min Jae had funded in his daughter's name. Time for cake. Mrs. Choi called, beaming. Hana ran to the table, positioned between Eunji and Min Jae. 6 candles flickered as everyone sang. Make a wish, sweetheart, Eunji whispered. Hana closed her eyes, then blew out every candle in one breath. What did you wish for? A guest asked. Hana looked up at Eunji, then at Min Jae, her smile radiant. I already have it. I have my appa, and I have my yama. What else do I need? Eunji's throat tightened. She met Min Jae's gaze across Hana's head, something warm and tentative passing between them. Not yet love, but the beginning of it. Trust rebuilding, one day at a time. Hana grabbed both their hands, pulling them toward the dance floor where music played. As they moved together, this family built from broken pieces, Eunji felt something settle deep in her chest. They say you can't choose your family, she thought. But sometimes, family chooses you. And when it does, when someone looks at you and says I see you, I believe you, I choose you, that's when you finally come home. Hana laughed, spinning between them, and Eunji knew. She was home. The end.